Hey guys, Joe here from JCS-Charting. It's Sunday, the 8th of December. We have a quick look at the DAX and the US markets. Mainly, we're going to look at cycles and volatility charts because they actually come into play with very important messages to tell us. What you see here is the latest update for my group members. You can book their 1 out of 2 packages at jcs-charting.com, a basic or an advanced package. And you get during the day plenty of updates in several time frames and several markets. What happened there at the end of last week, I must say, we were selling all our long positions and I was starting to build up a short position a bit too early. And DAX is actually overextending in price and in time. Even we had on the bigger charts, on the daily targets where we are moving into presently. That was here our last sequence, that green 2344 that triggered right here on Thursday. Then it pulled back. That happens quite a lot after sequence triggers, and then we try to go for the min targets, which are between 2402 and 2425. And the 138%, which is also the all-time high, that was at 2426 at the JFD. That was a turning point so far. And I gave my members that green zone, and I said, well, that green zone needs to hold for the bulls if we really want to move higher to hit the 161. Bears wants to see 2334, and they need to break that in order to run lower. This is a Cetera daily chart. I was posting that on X, I think 10 or 11 days ago. We were somewhere here below that neckline. There's a large inverted shoulder, head shoulder pattern, and here's that rising channel. Kind of looked like an F-flag pattern, which broke to the upside. Now we gapped up right at the top of that rising channel, and then we kept moving higher. We were hitting already the first target of that pattern here, and there are still higher targets. And by the way, we triggered 2205 to run higher, but usually before that sequence here works out to the upside, there's a pullback as well. And here's one of the charts, also a daily Cetera chart, which I'm showing for quite a while. You have in blue here that descending broadening wedge with that green target box. The first target got hit last week. And in combination with that, that green sequence here hit all the target, the 161 at 2397. There's one open target left at 2560 concerning that blue descending broadening wedge pattern. And we continue with the weekly. It's still the Cetera indication. You see here my projection, which I put in here in July. That worked out, almost perfectly in price and in timing. But first of all, I want you to pay attention on these letters and these numbers associated with it. These are my cycles. And usually we talk about a primary cycle, which consists out of either 2 half cycles or 3 major cycles. And we started that new primary cycle here in August 5th. By the way, that primary cycle started here and it finished here in week 16, which was quite early. And that was also one of the reasons we missed buying here, because we were on the very early side. But we started a new cycle here. That was the first major cycle top in week 4. We bottomed in week 5. Then the second major cycle started in week 10, and we bottomed in week 15. We finished week 17 last week, and usually these primary cycles, I like to top out between week 16 up to week 19, if it's a very bullish environment. And as you can see, that is a very bullish environment. We were hitting that upper boundary of that blue channel. Zoom out here that you see what I mean. That blue channel started with a low in October 2022, and since then it was running within it quite accurately. And now we actually broke it a little bit. And there's another channel, that gray one, which started actually with these tops here before the 2020. Let's call it a little crash. And then we have several topping and touching points right here, another one down here, and it's time to make another touch or hit at the upper boundary. For next week, it will run around 20,666. The next chart, we look at the DAX again. It's a daily chart again. At the bottom, you see the VDAX, the volatility of the DAX. And what we see here with these numbers, that is the Swedish 9 count that finished on Wednesday already at the DAX and also at the VDAX. And usually there is a turning point associated with that count within 3 trading days. We made already new highs on Thursday and Friday, new all-time highs. So we got one more day following that theory that we are topping out latest by Monday. The same as the other way around at the VDAX. We kept making new highs and we are diverging actually on the bigger time frames. Once we have a look at these all-time highs out of March this year, the VDAX made actually a new low at 1135, and since then it kept making higher lows. Since then we had another one here associated with that lower high at DAX in July, and now we are still well above these lows out of July, May and March. That means volatility is diverging to the index, which is not the best sign to make much higher all-time highs. And this is another volatility chart of the VDAX daily chart, and what you see here is a bullish Wilbur wave wedge, which is starting to overshoot here that lower trend line. We're hitting a major trend line while zooming out, while connecting these lows out of March and July. And we are running into a cycle low, which is right here. The VIX, by the way, the volatility index for the S&P 500, got the same cycle pattern. And this is a last DAX chart for today. It's a course index. It's a weekly time frame, and I was showing that already a month ago. There's this symmetrical triangle here in red. Broke out, it did a back test, not perfectly, but that was a tiny back test. We were running higher. We did another back test perfectly of the July highs from last year. And then that crazy rally started on August 5th. We are hitting already the first target of that pattern. And if you want to compare that to the performance index, we are missing still another 8.7% from the highs of Friday for the 100% target. And by the way, also check the indicators of DAX. For example, the MMTW, which is diverging once you check the stocks, which are moving above their 20 moving averages, for example, or the 50. It's all diverging. I made a special video update for my members on that. Also, Smart Money is diverging, so there are several warning signs that a top is actually close. We call it a primary top. That means we are just looking for a correction of 3 to 6 weeks before we start our next primary cycle. And we continue with the US markets. What you see at the top is the Nasdaq 100 and at the bottom is the S&P 500. They're both cash daily charts, and we have the same count as we have in DAX. It's a 9 count which completed on Wednesday with that gap up. DAX did the same, and we kept making new all-time highs until Friday. Again, there's usually a topping or some kind of pullback associated within 3 days. I wonder if we make a new high tomorrow and then we sell off, or we start selling straight away. And we continue with the daily chart of the VIX, so the volatility index of the S&P 500. We finished here like DAX a 9 count on Thursday, not with the new low. The low was actually on Monday, and since then the VIX is actually running flat, or let's call it sideways. And that is already diverging to the S&P 500. But we are in the middle, and that was my suggested cycle low. I think I put that in my one of my videos 2 weeks ago, that there's a suggested cycle low at the 5th of December. Let's call it the 4th, and usually there's a rising phase out of that cycle, which usually puts volatility into the index. So there's usually selling activity happening during that time. Another divergence at the Dow theory. So what you do is you compare the Dow Jones Industrials to the Dow Jones Transportations, and we had a bullish divergence here shown in blue, and now there was actually one happening at the top. The transportations, they made on the 25th of November the latest high, and it's also important to know that we are still running below the all-time highs out of 2021. The transportation didn't get above that level since. And the industrials they kept making new all-time highs until the 4th. And then they started selling. That is also an intermarket bearish divergence to the Nasdaq and the S&P 500. And by the way, we are in the middle of my so-called astro turning dates, ADTs. And that started actually, or that got that midpoint this weekend. So we kept making new all-time highs while the transportations kept making lower lows. And as you can see, the selling here is already taking place also at the industrials. I was building up my short positions here as well. That was actually the only one where we are not underwater yet. And last but not least, the Nasdaq 100. This is also a weekly cash chart, and I just want to show here the cycles out of that primary cycle. We are also in, like all other indexes, which started on August 5th. This one runs a bit different than the DAX. It topped out here with a major cycle top in week 2. We found the major cycle bottom week 4, then week 11, week 12 for the next, or the second major cycle top and bottom. And this is what I put in here 3 weeks ago. I assume a primary cycle top sometime in week 17 to week 18. Last week was week 17, and on Monday, week 18 starts, which means I assume here a topping of the primary cycle, which can run, or they like to do a correction as a minimum to touch or somewhere near the 30 weekly moving average. Yeah, I hope you liked this one. You can leave me a like or a nice comment, and I'm gonna write now a bit more detailed analysis for my members. They get a bit more information than here in my videos, because I actually pay for it. And if you want to have the same kind of details, you're welcome to join at JCS-Charting.com. I wish you a nice remaining Sunday evening. Bye bye.